Alex had never imagined that his day would end like this. He was used to the cold streets, the rumbling of the city around him, and the feeling of hunger gnawing at his stomach. Life was tough, and he had learned long ago that the world didn't owe him anything. But today, something was different. He was walking down a narrow alley, his steps echoing in the empty space, when he heard a soft sound. At first it seemed like a whisper carried on the wind, but then he noticed a faint groan. Turning around, Alex squinted into the dim light and saw her. A girl lying on the ground, barely conscious. She looked strange, with pale green skin and glowing eyes, but it was her blindness that caught Alex's attention. Her eyes were closed, but something about the way she held her head told him she wasn't just sleeping. Alex hesitated for a moment. Most people in the city wouldn't have bothered to help her, but he wasn't like most people. He had always been the type to stop for the underdog, the forgotten ones. He felt a tug at his heart. Something told him that this girl wasn't just another victim of the world's harshness. "Hey, are you okay?" Alex called out, his voice rough from days without speaking to anyone. The girl didn't respond. Alex took a cautious step closer. The girl's clothes were torn and she had cuts on her arms and face. Her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, but she seemed too weak to move. "Come on, wake up," Alex said softly, kneeling beside her. He gently shook her arm. "I'll help you. You're safe now." The girl's eyelids fluttered and her glowing eyes opened. For a moment she just stared blankly ahead as if confused. Then slowly her gaze shifted toward Alex. She didn't speak, but her expression was one of quiet fear and disbelief. Where am I?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Alex was taken aback by the soft, melodic tone of her voice. "You're in a back alley in the city. I was walking by and saw you," he explained. "You're hurt. Can you stand?" The girl shook her head slightly, her hand reaching out, but it seemed like she couldn't make sense of her surroundings. It was then that Alex realized something even stranger. She was blind. Her eyes weren't just glowing. They seemed completely vacant, as if her sight had been taken from her entirely. "Look, I'll help you," Alex said, trying to make sense of the situation. He bent down and carefully helped the girl sit up. "I know someone who can help. There's a healer not far from here." The girl didn't resist. She was weak, but there was something in the way she moved that made Alex think she wasn't just a helpless victim. There was a quiet strength in her, a presence that Alex couldn't ignore. As he helped her to her feet, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her than met the eye. "Do you know your name?" Alex asked, trying to make conversation as he supported her weight. She hesitated, as though the question had taken her by surprise. "Kara," she finally said, her voice trembling just a little. "My name is Kara." "All right, Kara," Alex said with a small smile. "I'm Alex, let's get you out of here." They started walking, with Alex helping Kara navigate through the maze of alleyways and streets. It wasn't long before he began to notice the looks they were getting. People who passed by on the street gave them strange glances, as if they were afraid of Kara, though no one said anything. Alex couldn't help but feel that something wasn't right. It was almost as if they were too afraid to approach, even though Kara was just a girl, blind and vulnerable. They continued in silence, the only sounds being the distant hum of the city and the soft footfalls of their steps. Alex couldn't stop thinking about Kara. There was something unsettling about her presence, yet he couldn't put his finger on it. It was as if she didn't belong in this world, like she was from somewhere far beyond the stars. The more he tried to understand her, the more questions filled his mind. He reached the healer's place, a shabby building that looked like it hadn't been used in years. Alex knocked on the door, and after a few moments the door creaked open. An old alien woman stood in the doorway, her eyes narrow as she examined Kara. There was a flicker of recognition in her eyes, but it was gone so quickly that Alex almost thought he imagined it. "What do you want?" the healer asked, her voice gruff. "I need help for her," Alex said, motioning to Kara. "She's blind and she's hurt. Please, can you help her?" The healer looked at him for a moment, then stepped aside to let them in. "Come in," she said reluctantly, "but I don't guarantee anything." Alex helped Kara inside, wondering what kind of help this healer could offer. Little did he know, this simple act of kindness was about to thrust him into a world far darker and more dangerous than he could ever imagine. Kara wasn't just a helpless girl. She was hiding something, and soon Alex would learn the terrifying truth. The moment Kara stepped inside the healer's rundown shop, the air felt different. The smell of herbs and strange alien potions filled the room, mingling with the dust and age of the place. Alex could sense that the healer's place was more than just a home. It was a refuge for those who didn't fit into society. But even as he glanced around trying to get a sense of the place, his thoughts kept drifting back to Kara. She was still weak, but her grip on his arm had tightened slightly as they entered. Despite her blindness, she seemed to know exactly where she was, moving with a quiet certainty. There was a strange calm about her, an energy that didn't match her fragile appearance. Kara wasn't like anyone Alex had ever met. The healer, a small, wrinkled alien woman with translucent skin, eyed Kara closely. "Set her down," the healer instructed, pointing to a table made of an old weathered metal. Her voice was sharp but not unkind. She seemed to have an odd aura about her, one that made Alex instinctively trust her, even though he had no idea who she was. "Thank you," Alex said, trying to sound grateful but still wary. He carefully helped Kara onto the table, and the healer went to work, gathering various herbs and tools from shelves stacked with jars filled with strange, glowing liquids. Kara sat still, her head tilted slightly, as if listening to the healer's every move. For a moment, Alex couldn't help but notice the way Kara seemed to be absorbing everything around her, as if the room and its sounds were more important to her than the sight she lacked. Kara's expression was calm but unreadable. "Who is she?" Alex asked, unable to hold back his curiosity any longer. "What's wrong with her?" The healer glanced up at him, her thin lips tightening into a slight frown. She didn't respond immediately, but instead began grinding something in a small stone bowl. Her eyes flicked to Kara, then back to Alex. "She's not just any girl," the healer muttered, almost as if to herself. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't know if the healer was talking to him or just speaking her thoughts aloud, but the way she said it made him uneasy. Kara, for her part, didn't seem to hear the conversation. She sat still, her face serene, as if the healer's every movement and word were part of a much larger plan. "I don't understand," Alex pressed. "She's blind and she needs help. She can't be just anyone." The healer's sharp gaze met his, and for a brief moment Alex thought she might say more, but instead she simply nodded toward Kara. "Her blindness is more than just a physical ailment. It's a curse, if you will. A punishment." Alex frowned, confusion swirling in his mind. "Punishment? From who?" The healer's expression darkened and she let out a heavy sigh. "That's a question only Kara can answer," she said softly, almost as if speaking of something deeply painful. She mixed another concoction in the bowl, the herbs turning a deep violet color. "All you need to know is that this girl carries a weight with her, a weight that many don't understand. But she's not just lost, she's running." Alex glanced over at Kara. She hadn't moved or reacted to the conversation. Her head was still tilted and her eyes, though unseeing, seemed to look directly at the healer, as though listening intently to the energy in the room. "Running from what?" Alex asked, his voice quieter now. He couldn't help it. Something about Kara made him feel protective, like she was a secret that needed to be kept safe. The healer didn't respond right away. She carefully applied the concoction to Kara's eyelids, gently massaging the paste into her skin. Alex watched, fascinated and uneasy. Whatever this healer was doing, it was clear it wasn't the kind of treatment he had ever seen before. "Her family is dangerous," the healer finally said, her voice low. "They come from a long line of powerful beings, but power comes at a price." Kara was born into that world, a world of crime, control, and fear. She's the daughter of one of the most feared mob bosses in the galaxy. Alex's heart skipped a beat. "A mob boss?" he repeated, feeling a knot form in his stomach. He had only heard stories about the mob in whispers, the kind of stories that sent chills down your spine. But this wasn't just a story. Kara was the daughter of one of them. The healer gave him a solemn nod. "Yes, Frelk, the most ruthless mob boss you could imagine. His empire stretches across planets and his power is absolute. He controls everything in his path, and anyone who dares defy him doesn't live to tell the tale." Alex stood frozen, the weight of the healer's words sinking in. He had no idea what he had gotten himself into. All this time he had thought Kara was just a girl who needed help, someone he could save. But now, with the healer's words hanging in the air, Alex was beginning to realize how much deeper this went. Kara's fingers twitched slightly as the healer continued the treatment, but her face remained calm. "You need to leave," the healer said suddenly, looking at Alex with urgent eyes. If Vrelk finds you with her, it's not just her life at risk anymore, it's yours too. And he won't stop until he has her back. The words hit Alex like a cold slap. What? What do I do? He asked, his voice trembling slightly. The idea of running from a mob boss was terrifying enough, but to be involved with the daughter of one, it felt impossible. The healer's eyes softened. Take her somewhere safe, and pray that she's ready to fight. Alex didn't know what to say. He had no idea how to protect Kara, or even if he could. But one thing was clear. The journey he had started wasn't just about helping a girl. It was about surviving a war that had only just begun. Alex sat in a corner of the healer's shop, watching in silence as the healer continued to treat Kara. The room was filled with the faint aroma of herbal mixtures and strange alien remedies, their scents both calming and unsettling. The healer's hands moved with practiced precision, applying the strange violet paste to Kara's closed eyelids and murmuring words in a language Alex didn't understand. Kara, despite her earlier weakness, now sat upright, her posture more dignified, her face serene. It was as if the healer's presence brought a subtle but noticeable change in her. Kara's unseeing eyes remained closed, but Alex noticed how she seemed to be absorbing every sound, every movement around her. It was almost as if she could sense the room's every detail, every flicker in the air. As time passed, Alex couldn't help but feel the weight of what the healer had said earlier. The idea that Kara was the daughter of a ruthless mob boss was still hard to wrap his mind around. His own life had been a struggle for survival, but the world Kara came from was another level of danger, a place where power ruled everything. The healer turned to him, wiping her hands on her robes. "You're still here, boy," she said, her voice sharp but not unkind. "Didn't I tell you to leave?" Alex stood up, feeling a surge of frustration. "You expect me to just walk away? After everything you've told me? I can't just leave her. She needs help." The healer's eyes softened for a moment, but her voice remained stern. "You think I don't know that? But you don't understand what you're dealing with. Vrelk's empire is vast, and he's not someone you can escape from. Not easily, at least." Alex looked at Kara, her delicate features still peaceful as the healer continued to work on her. "What happens to her now?" he asked, his voice quieter. The healer hesitated, the air in the room thick with the weight of unsaid things. Finally she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "She doesn't just need healing from physical wounds. She needs something far more dangerous, and protection." Alex's confusion deepened. Protection? From who? The healer's eyes flicked to Kara, then back to Alex. From her own bloodline. Kara's father is Vrelk, but her mother was someone else entirely. Alex took a step forward, his heart racing. "What do you mean?" "You said her father was a mob boss." "Who's her mother?" The healer sighed, a deep, almost mournful sound. Kara's mother was a powerful leader, a queen from another planet before Vrelk took her as his bride. She was strong, kind-hearted, and fierce. But she was also ambitious, wanting to break free from Vrelk's criminal empire. That didn't sit well with him, and she paid the price for it. Alex stared at the healer in shock. What happened to her? The healer's expression darkened, and she shook her head. She was killed. Vrelk made sure of it. He had her executed in front of Kara when she was just a child, to teach her a lesson. Alex felt a wave of anger surge within him. He couldn't imagine what it must have been like for Kara to witness something so horrifying at such a young age. How could anyone do that to their own family? The healer's lips twisted into a grim smile. Power does strange things to people, especially those who seek it at any cost. Alex clenched his fists, his mind racing with thoughts of what Kara had gone through. He had thought she was just another lost soul, but now he understood that there was so much more to her than he could ever have imagined. "So, what happens now?" Alex asked. "What do I do? How do we stop Vrelk from coming after her?" The healer looked at him with a mixture of sadness and pity. "You can't stop Vrelk, no one can. He controls entire planets with just a word. But Kara..." She paused, her voice growing softer. "Kara has a power inside her that even Vrelk doesn't fully understand. Her mother's blood runs through her veins, and it's something that can't be easily erased." Alex was silent for a moment, letting the words sink in. Kara wasn't just a helpless girl on the run. She was the daughter of two powerful beings, both of whom had shaped her fate in ways Alex couldn't yet comprehend. "What power?" Alex asked. "What does she have?" The healer leaned in closer, lowering her voice even more. Kara's mother was a telepath, a rare gift that allowed her to influence minds and control the will of others. Frelk wanted that power for himself, so he took her as his wife and killed her when she refused to submit. But Kara inherited her mother's gift, though it's still dormant. If she ever learns to control it, she could be more powerful than Frelk ever was. Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. He couldn't imagine the implications of such power, especially in the wrong hands. But if Frelk finds out she has this ability, the healer nodded gravely. He'll stop at nothing to control her or destroy her if she refuses. And if he learns that you're helping her. She trailed off, not needing to say the rest. Alex's mind raced. He had always lived day to day, just trying to survive, never thinking much beyond the next meal or the next night on the streets. But now he found himself caught in the middle of a war between powerful forces far beyond anything he had ever imagined. Kara's mother had been a queen, her bloodline a source of immense power, and Kara was her heir. The stakes had suddenly become much higher than Alex could have ever predicted. Kara's life was more complicated than he had realized, and so was his role in it. As the healer continued her work, Alex made a silent promise to himself. He would protect Kara no matter what it took. But the road ahead would be long, dangerous, and filled with enemies he couldn't even begin to comprehend. The truth had just begun to reveal itself, and the real journey was only about to start. The healer's shop was quiet, save for the soft sounds of Kara's breathing and the faint crackling of something in the corner of the room. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out, that something was coming. The healer, though calm on the outside, seemed to sense it too, her eyes flicking nervously between Alex and Kara as she finished the final touches of the treatment. Alex had never been one to believe in omens, but as he watched Kara, he couldn't help but feel the tension in the air. There was something heavy about the moment, as if the very walls of the room were pressing in on him. Kara, still seated on the old weathered table, was silent. She had been quiet for what felt like hours, her expression distant, as if she were lost in some faraway place. "Is she okay?" Alex asked, his voice low, uncertain. The healer nodded, though her face was etched with worry. "She's healing, but there's something more to it," she said, glancing over at Kara. "Her father won't stop until he has her back. And he has people? Very dangerous people. The enforcers are already on their way." Alex's blood ran cold. "What do you mean, enforcers?" The healer's lips pressed together tightly. Frelk's enforcers are the most feared in the galaxy. His personal army, ruthless, unrelenting. They won't stop until they find her, and if they do, they'll bring her back to him at any cost. They won't care who gets hurt in the process. Alex clenched his fists, the weight of the healer's words pressing on his chest. This wasn't just some random gang trying to track down a runaway girl. This was Vrelk's personal force. They had killed without mercy before, and they would do so again. "We need to leave. Now," Alex said, turning to Kara. She hadn't moved much, still sitting there as if in a trance. He couldn't help but feel both protective and confused by her silence. Was she truly just a victim of her father's cruelty, or was there more to her story? The healer's voice interrupted his thoughts. "It's not that simple," she said. "They've already found us." Alex froze. "What?" The healer's face grew pale. "There's a way they track her, a mark she carries. Even if we move her, they'll find her. They've always found her. We can only hide her for so long." Kara's eyes fluttered open then, slowly, as though she had been listening all along. She turned her head slightly, her unseeing gaze landing on Alex. He could feel her energy shift, a quiet strength emanating from her despite her frailty. "I'm sorry," Kara whispered, her voice breaking the silence in the room. "I didn't want this. I didn't want to bring this to you." Alex's heart sank. "Kara, none of this is your fault. We'll get you out of here. We'll figure this out." But as he spoke, there was a sudden, unmistakable noise outside, a low hum like a distant engine growing louder by the second. Alex's instincts flared. The enforcers were already here. The healer's face darkened. "It's too late," she said softly. "We don't have much time." The door to the shop slammed open before Alex could react, sending a gust of wind and dust into the room. Figures clad in dark armor stormed inside, their heavy boots pounding against the floor. Their faces were obscured by masks, but the energy they exuded was unmistakable, cold, calculated, and dangerous. The leader, a tall figure with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward, his eyes scanning the room with a chilling precision. "You have her," he said, his voice like gravel. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. The healer didn't flinch. "I've told you before, she's not here." The leader's lips curled into a smirk. "You lie," he said, and with a sharp motion he gestured to the others. "Search the place." Alex's heart raced as the enforcers began to move toward Kara. He instinctively stepped in front of her, blocking their path. "Stay away from her," he shouted, though his voice shook with fear. The leader's eyes flicked to Alex, his expression unreadable behind the mask. "This doesn't concern you, boy. Step aside." "I won't," Alex said, his voice growing more firm as adrenaline surged through him. "I'm not letting you take her." For a moment there was silence. The healer was still watching, but Alex could feel her gaze on him, a silent warning. But it was too late. He had already made his decision. Kara's life mattered more than his own. He couldn't let these merciless killers get their hands on her. The leader's eyes narrowed. "You think you can stop us?" he asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. Before Alex could react, one of the enforcers lunged toward him, grabbing him by the arm and throwing him across the room. He hit the wall hard, pain shooting through his ribs. The air was knocked out of him and he gasped for breath, struggling to stand. Kara, however, moved with a sudden unnerving grace. Her head snapped in the direction of the enforcers, her hands reaching out instinctively. She wasn't helpless. Alex saw it now. There was something in her, something that made her more than just a blind girl on the run. She was strong, and the power inside her was awakening. "No!" Kara's voice rang out, calm but commanding. The air in the room shifted, a pulse of energy reverberating through the walls. The enforcers hesitated. Their leader's eyes widened in shock as Kara stood, her hands glowing faintly, her energy filling the room like a storm gathering strength. "You think you can control me," Kara said, her voice steady. But the power behind it was undeniable. "You are nothing compared to what I am." The leader stepped back, his hands reaching for a weapon. But before he could draw it, the room seemed to explode with energy. Kara's presence filled the space, and the enforcers stumbled backward, as if overwhelmed by her sheer force. The leader, now visibly rattled, hesitated for just a moment too long, and in that moment, Alex realized that Kara wasn't just a helpless girl running from her father. She was a force to be reckoned with. "You will never take me back," Kara said, her voice colder now, the glow in her eyes growing brighter. "I've already chosen my own path." The leader, realizing they had underestimated her, raised his hand in a final, desperate gesture, but before he could act, the ground beneath them shook. Kara had made her choice, and the enforcers would soon learn that this wasn't just a fight for survival. It was the beginning of a war. The question wasn't if Kara could escape, but who would survive the battle that was about to unfold. The enforcers staggered back, clearly taken aback by Kara's sudden surge of power. Their leader, still recovering from the shock, cursed under his breath and motioned for his team to retreat. But it was too late. Kara's power had already shifted the balance, and the shop's walls were now alive with an unseen energy. Alex, still gasping for air after being thrown across the room, managed to push himself upright. His ribs ached, but his mind was focused entirely on Kara. Her once quiet demeanor had completely changed. There was a fire in her now, an undeniable strength radiating from her that Alex had never expected. He had thought of her as just a girl he needed to protect, but now he saw that she was far more than that. She was the key to something much larger. "Kara, what are you doing?" Alex asked, his voice shaking with a mixture of awe and fear. Kara's eyes, her blind, glowing eyes, met his. "I'm not just running anymore," she said, her voice steady and commanding. "I'm taking control. They won't stop hunting me, Alex, but they've never faced me like this before." The healer stood motionless, her face lined with both worry and something else, perhaps pride. She had known this day would come. She had known the power inside Kara could no longer be hidden. But even she hadn't anticipated the strength Kara would display in the heat of the moment. The enforcers, momentarily stunned, regained their composure and began to advance once more. They may have been shaken by Kara's unexpected resistance, but they were professionals, trained to handle the likes of her. The leader, his mask now cracked slightly from the energy pulse, gave a sharp nod, signaling his men to encircle the room. "I gave you one chance," the leader growled, his voice low and dangerous. "Now you've sealed your fate." Kara's hands clenched into fists. The air around her crackled with energy, But Alex noticed something else. The energy that had been so powerful moments ago was now beginning to fade. It was as if Kara was struggling to control it. Her body was trembling slightly, and for the first time, Alex saw fear flash in her eyes. "We need to leave. Now," Alex urged, sensing the change. "They're regrouping." Kara nodded, though the effort of maintaining control was evident on her face. With a sharp motion, she raised her hand, and the ground beneath the enforcers cracked. A wave of force rippled through the shop, throwing the mercenaries off balance. Some of them stumbled backward, but the leader remained unfazed, his eyes cold and calculating. "Go, Alex," Kara shouted, her voice urgent. "We can't stay here." Alex hesitated for a split second, before grabbing Kara's arm and pulling her toward the back door. The healer, watching with a mixture of concern and relief, stepped aside, allowing them to escape. They burst out into the alley, and Alex's heart pounded as they ran, the sound of the enforcers' pursuit growing louder behind them. Kara's steps were unsteady at first, her power clearly taking a toll on her body. She was struggling, but she refused to let Alex carry her. Instead, she leaned heavily on him for support, her breathing shallow and uneven. "They're still coming for us," Alex said, glancing over his shoulder. "We need to lose them. Fast." Kara's eyes closed for a moment as she focused on her surroundings. Despite her blindness, she seemed to sense every detail of the alley. The distant hum of a hovercraft, the sound of footsteps, the shifting of wind through the narrow space between buildings. "I know where to go," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Follow me." Alex, despite the urgency in her tone, felt a twinge of doubt. She didn't have sight, but it seemed as though Kara could hear things he couldn't, feel things he couldn't. Her senses were sharpened in ways that he couldn't explain. They turned down another alley, then another, weaving through the labyrinth of the city's back streets. Kara led them without hesitation, even as the sounds of the enforcers' pursuit grew closer. Alex could hear them shouting orders, their heavy boots pounding the pavement in pursuit. "Alex," Kara said, her voice suddenly strained. "They're too close. They'll find us if we don't act quickly." A sense of dread crawled up Alex's spine as he looked around. There was no clear way out of this. They were trapped in a maze of alleyways with no clear exit. But then Kara's expression shifted. She stopped suddenly, her hand shooting out to grip his arm. "I have an idea," she said, though her voice wavered. "But you have to trust me." Without waiting for Alex's response, Kara took a deep breath and raised both of her hands. Alex barely had time to react before a shockwave of energy pulsed from her. It wasn't as strong as before, but it was enough to send a rippling force down the alley, throwing debris into the air and causing nearby windows to shatter. The enforcers, caught off guard, stumbled back, their voices drowned out by the noise. "Go," Kara shouted, her voice urgent. "We have to move now while they're distracted." Alex, his heart pounding, didn't waste a second. He grabbed Kara's hand and pulled her forward, running faster than he had ever run in his life. They dashed through the narrow streets, cutting corners, sprinting through abandoned warehouses and crossing makeshift bridges over dark, industrial canals. Kara was slowing down now, the exertion of using her power clearly taking its toll, but she refused to stop. Alex was afraid that if they didn't find shelter soon, they would be caught. But Kara remained calm, as though she had already mapped out their escape route in her mind. They finally reached a small hidden entrance tucked behind a stack of crates leading down into an underground network. "We can hide here," Kara said, her breath shaky. "They won't find us right away." Alex hesitated, his eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of the enforcers. "For how long?" he asked. "Long enough," Kara replied, her voice still steady despite the toll the chase had taken on her. "But we need to rest and we need to plan our next move." As they descended into the darkness of the hidden tunnel, Alex couldn't help but feel the weight of what was coming. Kara wasn't just running from her father's enforcers. She was running from an empire, a powerful force that wouldn't stop until it had her back. The chase was only beginning, and every step they took led them deeper into a war they could no longer escape. The cold, damp air in the underground tunnel wrapped around Alex like a cloak. The sound of their footsteps echoed in the narrow, claustrophobic space as Kara led the way, her pace slowing as she began to recover from the draining exertion of the past hours. Alex couldn't help but marvel at her resilience. Despite everything, despite being hunted by her own blood, despite the weight of the world pressing on her, Kara had not once faltered. But he could see it now, the toll it was taking on her. Her breath was labored, and her energy, once so vibrant and forceful, now seemed thin and fragile. Kara paused for a moment, her fingers brushing against the rough stone walls as if searching for something beyond the shadows. Her head tilted slightly to the side, as though listening to the silence of the underground world. She didn't speak, but Alex could feel the weight of her thoughts pressing down on him, as though she was working through something in her mind. Something important. Finally, she stopped and turned to face him, her glowing eyes shimmering faintly in the dim light. Alex saw the resolve in her gaze, but there was something else there now. Something more vulnerable. It took him a moment to realize what it was. Kara was scared. "Kara?" Alex said softly, his voice breaking the silence. "What is it?" "What's wrong?" Kara's lips parted as she considered her words carefully. She hesitated before speaking, as if the truth she was about to reveal weighed heavily on her heart. "I've been running from my past for so long," she began, her voice steady but tinged with an emotion Alex hadn't expected. "From my father, from the things I've seen. But I can't keep running anymore. Not just for me, for the people he's hurt, for the empire he's built." Alex stepped closer, his eyes searching her face. "What do you mean? What empire?" Kara's breath trembled slightly, and she closed her eyes as though she were gathering the strength to face the truth. Vrelk's empire isn't just about crime. It's about control. It's about domination. He doesn't just rule over planets, he controls minds. He controls entire populations. He can make people do whatever he wants with just a thought. Alex's mind spun. He had heard whispers of the mob boss, but he had no idea the full extent of Vrelk's power. He had assumed it was all about money, weapons, and influence. But this, mind control, that was something far darker, far more dangerous. "Wait," Alex said, trying to wrap his head around what Kara was saying. "You're saying your father has the ability to control people's thoughts? How?" Kara's eyes opened, and for the first time Alex saw something like sorrow in them. "It's a gift that runs in my family," she said softly. "My mother had it. She could control minds, influence people's actions. She could make them think what she wanted, make them feel what she wanted. But my father, he twisted it. He used it for his own gain. He created an empire by bending others to his will. And when my mother tried to break free to stop him, he killed her. He made sure she couldn't escape." Alex felt a chill settle in his bones as the pieces of the puzzle started to fit together. He had thought that Kara was just a girl running from her father's cruelty, but now he understood. Her mother had been a powerful figure too. And Kara was the heir to that power, a power that Vrelk had corrupted. "You didn't know how to control it, did you?" Alex asked gently. "Your power." Kara nodded, her expression distant. "No, I didn't. I've always known I was different. My father made sure I knew it from a young age. He wanted me to inherit his empire. But when my mother died, I couldn't bear it. I couldn't live with the idea of becoming like him. So I ran. I tried to hide, tried to live like a normal person." "But you never were normal, were you?" Alex said softly. "You're not just running from him. You're running from what you could become." Kara met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm afraid of what I could become, what I'm capable of." Alex's heart ached for her. He had never been a part of something bigger than himself. He had always lived on the edge, fighting just to survive. But Kara's life, her burden, was something he couldn't begin to imagine. She wasn't just a girl on the run. She was the last heir to a terrible legacy, one that could reshape entire worlds. "I didn't want to hurt anyone," Kara continued, her voice trembling. "But I can feel it inside me. The power, it's in my blood, and I can't run from it forever. I have to face it. I have to learn how to control it, or I'll be no better than my father." Alex stood silently for a moment, letting her words sink in. He had known from the start that Kara was different. But now, standing here in the cold underground tunnel, he understood the gravity of what she was up against. Her past wasn't just something she could leave behind. It was a part of her, and it would follow her no matter how far she ran. "You're not alone in this," Alex said finally, his voice firm. "You don't have to do this by yourself." Kara looked at him, her expression softening just a little. "I don't want you to get hurt, Alex. You've already done so much for me. You shouldn't be involved in this." But Alex shook his head, stepping closer. "I'm already involved, Kara. I'm not going anywhere." For a long moment, Kara didn't say anything. She simply stared at him, as though weighing his words, as though trying to decide whether or not she could truly trust him. But Alex didn't back down. He had already made up his mind. "I'm here for you," he said quietly. "Whatever happens, we'll figure this out together." Kara nodded slowly, a faint flicker of gratitude crossing her face. She looked away, her gaze lost in the shadows of the tunnel. The weight of the truth had settled heavily between them, and yet for the first time in days Alex felt like there was a possibility of hope. The road ahead would be dangerous. Kara's past was more tangled than he could ever have imagined, and her power was a threat not only to herself, but to the world around her. But as long as they were together, Alex felt a flicker of hope, a small spark in the darkness. They would fight this together. The journey was far from over, and Kara's true strength had just begun to awaken. But one thing was certain. The truth was out now, and there was no turning back. The sound of distant footsteps echoed through the cold underground tunnel. The dim glow of Kara's energy pulsed softly in the darkness, and Alex could feel the tension in the air. They had been running for what felt like days, weaving through hidden passageways, always one step ahead of Vrelk's enforcers. But they knew their time was running out. The walls were closing in. Vrelk wouldn't stop until he had his daughter back. And now, more than ever, Alex realized just how much was at stake. Kara wasn't just running from her father. She was running from the destiny he had carved for her. As the tunnel narrowed, Alex and Kara reached the end of their escape route. A dead end. A large metal door blocked their path, rusted and covered with alien symbols. Kara reached out instinctively, her fingers brushing the cool surface. She could feel the faint hum of energy behind the door, though her blindness kept her from seeing it. "This is it," she whispered, her voice steady despite the fear that gripped her heart. "This door leads to the old catacombs. We can't go any further unless we break through it." Alex glanced over his shoulder, hearing the faint rumble of the enforcer's boots approaching. They were close. Too close. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his hand instinctively went to the hilt of his knife, even though he knew it wouldn't be enough against the enforcer's firepower. "We don't have much time," Alex said, his voice tight. "Can you do it?" Kara nodded, her expression unreadable. She stepped forward, her fingers finding the ancient lock on the door. Her hands glowed faintly as she tapped into her power, the same energy that had helped them escape so many times before. Alex watched in awe, his heart hammering in his chest. He knew Kara was stronger than she realized, but this was different. This wasn't just about saving herself anymore. It was about confronting the past she had been running from, facing her father's empire head-on. The door creaked as it began to shift, the lock clicking open under Kara's focus. A faint, otherworldly hum filled the air, and with one final push the door groaned open, revealing the dark expanse beyond. Kara stepped through first, her movements careful but determined. Alex followed closely behind, his eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of danger. They found themselves in a vast, ancient chamber, filled with crumbling stone columns and forgotten relics. The air was thick with the scent of dust and age, and the silence was broken only by the distant sounds of the enforcers closing in. "We can't stay here long," Alex said, his voice low. "They'll be on us any minute." Kara turned to face him, her glowing eyes intense. "We don't need to run anymore," she said, her voice stronger than it had ever been. "I've been running from my past for so long, but it's time to face it. It's time to stop running from who I am." Alex stared at her, unsure of what she meant. "What are you talking about?" Kara's lips curled into a small, determined smile. "I've been afraid of what I can do, afraid of the power I inherited from my mother. But I can't hide from it anymore. I'm not the person my father wants me to be. I'll never be him." Alex's heart raced as Kara raised her hands, her energy beginning to pulse around her. The room seemed to shift, the shadows retreating as Kara's light filled the space. For a moment everything went still, as if the very air was holding its breath. Alex could feel the power radiating from her, could see the subtle change in her posture. She wasn't just an ordinary girl anymore. She was the last of a royal bloodline, the daughter of an empire, and the key to everything. And in that moment, Alex realized just how much she had changed. Kara wasn't just running from her father anymore. She was standing her ground, ready to fight for her freedom, for her future, and for the world she had the power to reshape. But before Alex could say anything, a voice cut through the silence, a voice filled with cold authority, one that sent a chill down his spine. "Kara," Vrelk's voice echoed through the chamber. "You've made a terrible mistake." Alex's blood ran cold. Frelk had found them. The mob boss stood at the entrance of the chamber, flanked by his enforcers who had finally caught up. His towering figure filled the doorway, his expression cold and menacing. He was everything Alex had heard about, ruthless, calculating, and utterly without mercy. Kara stood her ground, her glowing eyes fixed on her father. "I'm done running, Father," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I'm not going back to your empire. I'm not going to be a puppet for you to control anymore." Vrelk's lips curled into a cruel smile. "You think you have a choice, Kara? You are mine. I made you, and you will do as I command." Alex felt a surge of anger rising in his chest. This was it, the moment they had been running from, the moment they had been waiting for. Kara wasn't just fighting for her freedom anymore. She was fighting for her soul. "I'll never be yours again," Kara said, her voice firm. "You can't control me anymore." Vrelk's eyes narrowed, his hand reaching for the weapon at his side. "Then you leave me no choice." Before Alex could react, Kara moved. Her hands shot out and the air around her seemed to warp. The ground trembled as she tapped into the full extent of her power. Alex watched in awe as her energy surged, the room shaking with an intensity he had never seen before. Kara wasn't just using her abilities to protect herself, she was confronting her father, challenging the very foundation of his empire. Vrelk staggered back as the force of Kara's power slammed into him. His enforcers moved to retaliate, but they were thrown back by the same force. The chamber trembled, the ancient walls cracking under the weight of Kara's energy. Alex stood frozen for a moment, watching the battle unfold before him. This was the moment. Kara wasn't just fighting for her life. She was fighting for the entire galaxy, for everything her father had stolen from her. "Stop," Vrelk shouted, his voice filled with rage. "You can't defeat me. I am power itself." But Kara wasn't listening. Her eyes burned with determination, and with a final defiant push, she unleashed her full potential. The explosion of energy shattered the air around them, and for a moment everything went white. When the light faded, the room was silent. Vrelk was on the ground, his form unconscious, his power broken. The enforcers lay scattered, unable to rise against Kara's strength. Kara stood tall, her chest rising and falling with exertion. She had won. The empire her father had built, the darkness he had ruled with, was no more. "It's over," she whispered, her voice filled with both relief and sorrow. Alex stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "You did it," he said, awe and admiration in his voice. Kara turned to him, her face softening for the first time in what felt like forever. "We did it," she corrected gently, her hand reaching for his. "Together." And in that moment, Alex realized that this wasn't just the end of a chase, it was the beginning of something new. Kara was free, and with her, the universe was about to change.